a little boy, the best way to impress my father was to put myself in the most perilous position possible. My father was a cowboy, in every sense of the word. He's always worn a cowboy hat, cowboy boots, and cowboy belt buckles. My father's name is Leslie Gene Dix, and he goes by the name Les Dix. You have never met a tougher man. And my father was most well known for being able to break the horse that couldn't be broken. I would sit out at the stable and listen as the stallion inside would bang against the walls and smash the doors and knock over bales of hay and rip open bags of feed. It was like there were explosions going on inside. And then my father would walk in with nothing but an apple in his hand. And for the first 5, 10, 15 minutes, the banging would go on, the pounding and the explosions. And then it would start to die down. And the banging would stop, and it would get quiet. And then my father would come out on the back of the horse that no man could ride. It was like having Superman as your father. Naena Kalatero and Dropo Apagon Batero Tu, translated from the Greek, means be a better man than your father. Much like Hector from Homer's Iliad, this is a universal human concept that many people struggle with today. The following piece argues that we can be better than those who raise us. My Father's Son by Matthew Dix. I spent my childhood trying to impress and earn the love of this superhero of a father. I remember we had this mean little pony named Flicker, and one day, Flicker reached out of the stall and bit me in the stomach. Dad, Flicker has me, he won't let go! And my father looked at me from underneath that hat and smiled. He's just got your coat. And because it was my father, I grinned and bared it. Until Flicker let go, and then I reached up my shirt to show him the love. I don't think my father has ever been more proud of me than that moment. We used to play a game where my father would lie on his back on the dining room table with his arms outstretched, and would stand in his hands, and he would lift us up. And the one who could stay balanced the longest would win. And if you were lucky when you fell, you'd fall into his chest and he'd grab you and hold you tight. If you were unlucky, you'd tip to the left or the right and hit the dining room table. And if you were really unlucky, you'd bounce off the dining room table and onto the floor or into the wood pile next to the wood-burning stove. Now it sounds like negligent parenting, even by 1970 standards. It was a great time to be a kid. One day, I got off the school bus, and I went into the house, and my mother was sitting there on the couch next to some man. And he said that his name was Mr. McKenna, and he was there to help us, because our parents were getting divorced. And just like that, my life changed. The cowboy hat was gone. The boots were gone. The belt buckles were gone. Within a week, the horses were gone from the stable. And my father was gone. In about 14 seconds after my parents' divorce was finalized, my mother remarried, and she became Mrs. McKenna. And that social worker, Mr. McKenna, Neil, became my stepfather. And I had this other man that I had to impress, and he was nothing like my father. He wore white shirts and paisley ties, drank wine and vodka instead of beer. And Neil liked everything that his real son, Ian, liked. Ian was a baseball player, so I decided I would become a baseball player too. But my family never had any money. So they gave me a hand-me-down baseball glove for a right-handed player. And I'm left-handed. So even though Ian is 3 years younger than me, he was playing in Babe Ruth, and I was in Farm League. But even when my Farm League team made it to the championship and I was named an All-Star, Neil never came to a game. I tried everything I could to impress Neil, to make him like me. I improved my grades, I tried to help out the family, and I got a job at a farm and gave him the money. And money was always a problem in the family, and my mother and Neil fought about it all the time. I remember this one time, just before Christmas. My mother and Neil were fighting in the kitchen, and Neil was saying there wasn't going to be any Christmas because we didn't have enough money. So I gathered up my brothers and sisters, and we went into the basement and started picking the tinsel off of last year's Christmas tree and ironing it out, thinking that if we could get the tinsel and they didn't have to buy that, maybe we could have Christmas. But nothing I did was ever good enough for that man. And then one day, my mother and Neil were fighting in the kitchen again. And Neil was saying that he was going to leave my mother. But when he left, she was going to lose the house, and she wasn't going to be able to feed us anymore. She was going to be alone and penniless. And I couldn't take it anymore. I was 15 years old, so I strode into the kitchen across the dining room table, and I looked at him. Be a man! And he looked at me. Mind your own business, go to your room. So I did. And when I got to my room, I slammed the door shut as hard as I could. And the whole house shook like that barn with the stallion. And then I heard Neil coming, and I knew he was coming for me. So I stood in the middle of my bedroom, and I waited for him. And Neil came in, he threw open the door, and I said, "What?" And I got about halfway through that word before he hit me. He didn't punch me. He didn't slap me. He backhanded me, and it sent me to the ground. But I was not going to let him put me to the ground. So I stood back up and I said, "Why don't you hit me again?" And he did. Twice as hard. When I hit the ground, I was seeing stars. I was my father's son, damn it. I had fallen off of horses and dining room tables. I was not going to let him keep me down, so I started to get back up. And Neil knew it. He knew me. So he hit me before I could get to my feet. And this time I wasn't getting back up. So he stood over me. "What?" I had nothing to say. So he turned and left. And as I lay there on my bedroom floor, I swore to myself, I made a promise that in 3 years I will graduate high school, I will leave this house, and I will never see or speak to that man again. And I kept my promise. When I turned 18, I left. And Neil kept his promise too. 2 years after I left, he left my mother. After not paying the mortgage for over a year and not telling her. So the bank foreclosed on the house. And she was penniless. Just like he promised. I kept my promise for 17 years until my mom died. And I was at the wake, standing in that line, shaking hands, and listening to people tell me how sorry they were for me. And before I knew it, I was shaking this hand, and I look up, and it was Neil. He looked back at me. So sorry to hear your mom passed. For a minute, I didn't even know who it was. And then I remembered, and I realized, and I thought to myself, I am 35 years old. I can hit him the way that he had hit me that day. But I knew that I was old enough to know better and to not hit him the way he should have known way back when.
Yeah.